My name is Michaela Carver, 35 years old. It was supposed to be a normal Christmas. Food on the table, lights twinkling, kids darting in and out of rooms. I thought the day would blur like every other holiday, exhausting but predictable. But I didn't know that by the end of the night, everything in my life would change. From the kitchen, I could hear the kids' laughter spilling out of the den. At first, I told myself it was harmless, cousins being silly. But then the sound sharpened, jagged, the kind of laughter that doesn't land soft. I balanced a tray of drinks for the adults. Mom had insisted I help. You've always been the organized one, Michaela. So while everyone else lounged, I ferried glasses back and forth. That was my role, helpful, quiet, out of the way. The kids had their own table in the den. My daughter Olivia, 11, sat there with her cousin Madison, also 11, and several younger cousins. Their voices bounced like ping pong balls, high-pitched and giddy. Then I caught a phrase. Olivia's not as smart. The laughter rolled huge and rolling, like it was the funniest thing ever said. My hand froze around the tray. The glasses trembled, liquid sloshing dangerously close to the rim. I set the tray down too quickly, wiped my palms on my skirt, and walked toward the den. No one noticed me at first. Olivia sat at the end of the table, hands in her lap, her face pale. Madison grinned, soaking up attention. Around them, the cousins leaned in, waiting for the next jab. She's more annoying. Another wave of laughter, louder. Then I heard my sister Monica's voice, smooth, amused, guiding the cruelty. Say it nicer. Madison's quicker at learning. The room erupted again. Olivia stayed stiff, chin dipped, like shrinking small enough might make her invisible. I stepped inside. The sound faltered, thinned, and then died. I walked straight to Olivia, rested my hand on her trembling shoulder, and looked at my husband, Adam, across the table. He looked startled, confused. He hadn't heard the words, just the laughter. He was still smiling faintly, like he thought it was all just a game. Get your coat, I said. The room went silent. You could have heard the clock ticking in the hall. Adam blinked. What now? My voice was steady, colder than I'd ever heard it. He pushed his chair back without a word. Somewhere behind me, maybe Mom, maybe one of the cousins asked, What's going on? This is the last time you'll see us, I said, quiet but sharp as glass. Faces froze. Mouths hung half open. No one laughed. I took Olivia's hand. She didn't resist. Just let me pull her up, her small fingers trembling in mine. We walked out of that house without another word. Past the kitchen, past the dining room, where adults sat frozen, past the Christmas tree blinking cheerfully in betrayal, out into the sharp night air. The house still hummed behind us with the echo of their laughter. I buckled Olivia into the car. She stared out the window, lips pressed tight. Adam slid into the driver's seat, glancing at me but saying nothing. The engine started. We pulled away from the curb. Only then did I let myself breathe. They thought mocking my daughter was just a game, but very soon Monica would learn how wrong they were. If you've ever grown up as the family's black sheep, let me save you the suspense. It's like being invited to a party where everyone else is in on a joke you don't understand, and the punchline is always you. I had one sister, Monica, and one brother, Daniel. Together they filled our parents with pride for a lifetime. Monica was the golden girl, effortlessly social. Daniel was the charming athlete, the kind other parents bragged about at dinner parties. And me? I was the nerd. Not the quirky fun kind, but the serious kind. Nose in books, tinkering with computers before anyone knew what HTML meant. My siblings never let me forget it. When I got glasses, they hooted owl whenever I spoke. Once at dinner, they pulled my chair out of the room as a prank. Everyone laughed while I stood there, tray in hand, debating whether to sit on the floor or disappear. If I joined a conversation, Daniel sighed and announced, Shh, the encyclopedia is talking. The worst part wasn't even them. It was Mom and Dad. They didn't stop it. Sometimes Dad chuckled. Mom would pat my shoulder and say, Don't be so sensitive. That phrase became the soundtrack of my childhood. Don't be so sensitive when they hid my homework. Don't be so sensitive when they mocked how I dressed. Don't be so sensitive when they joked I must be adopted because how else could I be so different? I laughed along sometimes because what else could I do? But inside, I knew I didn't belong. And when you grow up knowing that, you learn to make yourself useful. That's how I became the helper. Dishes, trays, keeping the peace. If I couldn't be loved, maybe I could at least be tolerated. The irony? Everything they mocked me for, the books, the glasses, the computers, saved me. I built a career out of it. Senior software engineer. Good money, good benefits. Adam works in tech too. Two nerds building a nerdy little life. Our family works. Theirs, not so much. That's how I ended up paying for a house that wasn't mine. 5 years ago, when Olivia was 6, Monica came to me in tears. Her husband was finding himself, which meant bouncing between classes and part-time jobs without ever landing an income. Monica claimed she couldn't juggle career and motherhood. She tried side hustles, candles, Etsy, fitness coaching, but all ended in debt. She said she just wanted stability for Madison, a safe home. At first it was just a deposit, a little boost. But then the truth, her credit was wrecked. No bank would touch her. So I did what I thought was the family thing. I bought the house in my name and let her live there. Supposedly temporary, 6 months, maybe a year, until they got on their feet. That was 5 years ago. They paid utilities. I covered the mortgage. And somewhere along the way, the house stopped being mine in their eyes. It became their entitlement. My name might be on the deed, but in their minds, I was just the nerd with money. Must be nice, Monica once smirked when I mentioned a work project. Just sitting at a computer all day. You wouldn't even know what to do with that money if you weren't helping us. I laughed it off, but later that night I lay awake thinking, maybe she's right. Maybe I've been paying for acceptance this whole time. I never said it aloud. Easier to tell myself I was just helping. That's what family does, right? Adam never liked it. He was too polite to call it what it was, being used, but I could see it in his eyes every month when the mortgage payment cleared. He'd glance at me like he was waiting for me to snap. I didn't, because deep down I thought maybe this was the price of belonging. But after Christmas dinner, watching Olivia shrink under their laughter, I knew it stops here. The drive home was quiet. Adam kept his eyes on the road. Olivia fogged the window with her breath. My arms were folded so tightly my nails pressed crescents into my skin. Adam tried once, halfway down the block. What's going on? His voice was careful, like testing boiling water. Later, I said, my throat was too tight. By the time we pulled into the driveway, my jaw ached from clenching. Inside, Adam tossed his keys in the bowl. Olivia drifted toward the couch, still silent. I hung up my coat slowly, each movement deliberate. If I moved too fast, I'd break. They thought it was a joke. I knew better. Tomorrow, they would know too. The house felt colder than usual when we stepped inside. Maybe it was just me. Adam tossed his keys into the dish by the door, that soft metallic clink, sounding far too loud in the silence. Olivia slipped past us, still in her coat, her boots leaving damp trails on the floor. She didn't look up. Okay, Adam said finally, his voice low. What was that? I pulled my coat off carefully, as though if I moved too fast, it would split at the seams. They were mocking her, I said. His brow furrowed. Mocking? Out loud, in front of everyone. Organized humiliation. My words cut sharper than I intended. He blinked. I thought they were just playing some silly game. Kids joke. No, I said flatly. They thought it was a game, yes. But it wasn't playful. It was cruelty, dressed as entertainment. Adam rubbed his forehead, clearly struggling. He'd always been the peacemaker, smoothing things over at gatherings while I carried trays. It was hard for him to imagine that we'd just detonated Christmas over something he hadn't even caught. Before I could say more, Olivia's small voice broke the air. It was just a joke, she whispered. I turned. She was still standing near the couch, her coat half unzipped, eyes fixed on the floor. If I walked away every time people made jokes about me, I'd have no friends. The words landed like a knife, because they were mine, word for word, thought for thought, the exact coping mechanism I had carried through childhood. Adam crouched slightly, his voice gentle. What kind of jokes, sweetheart? Her lip trembled. They said Madison's smarter, funnier, better, that I'm annoying. Her voice cracked on that last word. She added quickly, but it's fine. It's probably true. She is smarter than me. That nearly killed me. I dropped to my knees in front of her, took her cold hands in mine. None of that is true, I said, my voice steady but fierce. They weren't being honest. They were being mean. Jokes that hurt aren't jokes. She shook her head, tears glistening, but refusing to fall. But if I can't take it, maybe I'm weak. Maybe they're right. I wanted to scream, not at her, but at all of them. the family who trained her to believe cruelty was a test she had to pass. Instead, I breathed deep, forcing calm into my voice. No, you are not weak. You are kind. You are brilliant. And people who tear you down don't deserve you, ever. Her lips wobbled, then the tears came, rushing fast. She buried her face against me, shoulders shaking. Relief, that's what it was. Relief that someone finally told her she didn't have to accept it. I held her until her breathing slowed, until the storm inside her passed. When she finally climbed the stairs to bed, Adam leaned against the counter, arms crossed. He looked torn between anger and bewilderment. "You've always said yes to them," he said. "Always helped, always kept the peace. What changed tonight?" "That was the old me," I said. I kept saying yes, hoping it would mean something. It never did. His gaze sharpened. "But the house. If you're serious about drawing a line, then what about the house?" I didn't hesitate. "I want them out." Adam straightened, eyebrows high. "That's a big step. Are you sure?" I've never been more sure. For a long moment, he studied me. Then his shoulders dropped. Okay. That was all I needed. I pulled my laptop from the bag, the glow of the screen casting the kitchen in pale blue light. My hands shook slightly as I opened a blank document. Adam slid into the chair across from me, silent, waiting. The cursor blinked like a metronome. Words formed slowly at first, then faster. Formal notice. 30 days to vacate. Property will be listed for sale. I kept it short, clinical, stripped of emotion. No more pleading, no more explanations. Just facts. Adam leaned over, reading as I typed. His lips pressed thin, but he didn't interrupt. When I finished, he nodded once. I printed it, sealed it in an envelope, pressed the adhesive down firmly. That envelope wasn't just paper and ink. It was a line, the first real boundary I had drawn in my entire life. I placed it in the outgoing mail pile by the door. For a moment I stared at it, my chest tight. My whole life, I'd avoided drawing lines. I had let them blur me out, erase me, laugh at me. Now this thin envelope held my answer. Adam reached for my hand. "They're not going to take this well." "I know." "You're ready for that?" I met his eyes. "They've been ready to use me my whole life. It's time I'm ready for them." We sat there in the kitchen, the envelope between us, the refrigerator humming softly in the silence. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Olivia's face at the table, pale, frozen, waiting for the next blow. I heard her small voice insisting maybe they were right. And I knew, if I let this slide, she would learn to swallow cruelty until she believed it was normal. I wouldn't let her inherit my scars. At 2 a.m., I padded down to the kitchen for water. The envelope was still there, sitting like a loaded weapon. Next to it, a glossy advertisement had slipped in with the mail earlier, some local bank offering quick approval for home equity lines of credit. "Don't leave your assets idle. Borrow today." I stared at it, the slogan practically sneering. Something about the phrasing crawled under my skin. Assets. Idle. That was how Monica saw me, an asset to be tapped. The two envelopes sat side by side, one offering endless debt, the other demanding freedom. I slid the ad into the trash. The other stayed where it was. The next morning, Olivia padded into the kitchen, hair tangled from sleep. She poured cereal and glanced at the envelope. "Is that for Aunt Monica?" she asked softly. "Yes," I said. Her eyes lingered on it. She didn't ask what it said. She didn't have to. She just nodded, a tiny flicker of relief passing over her face before she bent back to her cereal. For the first time, I felt like she trusted me to protect her. Later that afternoon, I called a friend from college who'd gone into law. I asked her to double-check the wording. She assured me it was airtight. "Just be prepared," she said gently. "They'll push back. People always push hardest when they're losing the most." I thanked her, hung up, and looked around my quiet house. The clock ticked steadily on the wall. For once, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt like preparation. Tomorrow, the fuse would be lit. The letter landed faster than I expected. 3 days after dropping it in the outgoing pile, my phone lit up. Monica. I knew what was coming before I even answered. "You've lost your mind," she spat the second I picked up. 30 days. You think you can just kick us out like we're strangers? Over a joke? Her voice was shrill, ragged at the edges. "You're pathetic, Michaela. You've always been too sensitive." There it was again. That old refrain. Too sensitive. The weapon they'd always used to gut me. I let her rant until she ran out of air. "It's not a joke," I said, calm, measured. "You have 30 days. I'm selling the house." "You can't sell it," she shrieked. We live here. This is our home. My name is on the deed, not yours. She cursed, swore I was selfish, destroying the family. Then she hung up before I could respond. I set the phone down gently on the counter. My hand didn't shake. Not this time. Later that evening, it rang again. This time, Mom. Her voice came sweet, syrupy, the way she used to sound when she tucked me into bed. Michaela, sweetheart, I think we should all take a breath. Don't do anything rash. Think of Madison. She needs stability. You've always been the generous one. Don't throw that away over one silly night. I almost laughed. Generous. That was a new one. It's not about one night, I said flatly. It's about Olivia, about years of being treated like we don't count. The letter stands. Michaela, listen, Mom pressed, her tone thickening like molasses. You've helped so much already. Can't we just move past this? You don't want to break the family apart. I leaned against the counter, staring at the dark kitchen window. Family broke itself a long time ago. I just finally noticed. There was a pause, then the sweetness cracked. You'll regret this, she hissed, and the line went dead. So much for honey. The days crawled by. I knew their tactic. Do nothing. Drag their feet. Wait for me to fold, like always. But this time I didn't. I called a realtor. His name was Greg. Mid-40s, sharp suit, polite smile that looked like it had seen everything. They might slam the door in your face, I warned. He nodded. Then we escalate. I'll document everything. Courts don't like obstruction. The word court sounded heavy, final. But I didn't flinch. Greg had barely left when my phone buzzed again, this time from a number I didn't recognize. The caller ID read, Summit Title and Escrow. I frowned, picked up. Mrs. Carver, we're doing a routine title check ahead of your listing. Yes, I said cautiously. There was an attempted HELOC application last month tied to the property. It was denied because the name on the deed didn't match the applicant. We just wanted to confirm you didn't authorize that. My blood ran cold. No, I did not authorize anything. The voice on the other end softened. It happens more than you'd think. We flagged it immediately, but we like to let owners know. You're safe, your title's clear, just be aware. I thanked him, hung up, and sat down hard at the kitchen table. Monica's husband. It had to be. Desperate enough to try to squeeze money out of a house that wasn't even theirs. Adam found me there minutes later, staring at nothing. What happened? I told him. His jaw clenched, but he didn't speak. He didn't have to. The betrayal was thicker than words. That night, sleep was impossible. My mind replayed every detail. Monica, standing in my kitchen years ago, tears in her eyes, begging me for stability. Her promise. Just 6 months, Michaela, maybe a year. Now 6 years later, they weren't just clinging, they were scheming. I imagined Olivia at that table, listening to Madison's voice ring louder, brighter, while Monica smirked nearby. And I knew. This wasn't just about cruelty. It was about control. Control I was finally ripping away. The first showing came the next week. Greg texted me a warning before he arrived. They're not cooperating. Later he called. They slammed the door in my face. Said they'd never let strangers walk through their home. They told me to tell you to go to hell. His voice was calm, but I heard the edge underneath. Do you want me to escalate? I took a breath, steadying myself. Yes, document it. Every word. We'll serve them if we have to. The next morning, I found a message waiting on my voicemail. Not from Monica this time, but from Daniel, my brother. His voice carried that same easy charm he'd always used to dodge responsibility. Michaela, come on, this is ridiculous. Houses, lawyers, threats? Over a few words at Christmas? You've always been dramatic. Just let it go. You don't want to make Mom and Dad choose sides. Choose sides, as if they hadn't chosen decades ago. I deleted the message without finishing it. That evening, Olivia padded into the kitchen while I was making tea. Are we really selling their house? She asked softly. I crouched down, met her eyes. Yes, because it's not theirs, and because people who treat you like you're less don't get to live off your mother's work. Her gaze flicked toward the counter, where the glossy bank ad still sat in the trash. She didn't know the details, but she sensed something bigger was unfolding. She nodded once, solemn, and whispered, "Good." The following week, Greg filed formal paperwork. A process server delivered an access notice to Monica's front porch. I wasn't there, but Greg described it later. Monica's face red with fury, her husband pacing, her voice pitched high enough to shake windows. They told me you'd regret this, he said. But they signed receipt, which means we're covered. For the first time in weeks, I exhaled. But relief was fleeting. because deep down, I knew they weren't done. Not by a long shot. That night, as I tucked Olivia into bed, she looked up at me with wide eyes. "Are they going to be mad forever?" she asked. I smoothed her hair back. "Maybe, but that's not your fault." Her lip trembled. "I don't want them to hate you." I kissed her forehead. "Sweetheart, their hate isn't about me. It's about what they can't take from me anymore." She thought about that, then whispered, "I'm glad you're not letting them." When I closed her door, I leaned against the wall for a long moment, my hand pressed flat to the wood. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was fighting for her future, and I would not lose. Day 30 arrived gray and cold, as if even the sky knew something final was about to happen. When I turned onto their street, a moving truck already blocked the driveway. Monica's husband wrestled a box down the steps, muttering under his breath, his shoulders strained, veins corded in his neck. Monica was barking orders from the porch, her face red, arms folded whenever she wasn't waving them at him. My parents hovered nearby, directing traffic like generals. When they spotted me stepping out of my car, the glares they shot could have burned holes straight through my coat. I crossed the street slowly, each step deliberate, the slam of the truck door echoing like a gavel. The driveway was littered with boxes, clothes spilling from half-taped cartons, toys scattered, furniture legs jutting out awkwardly. Chaos and defeat in cardboard form. Greg, the realtor, stood a few feet back, clipboard in hand, professional but watchful. Adam was with me too, a steady presence, though he let me walk ahead. This was mine to finish. Mom's face hardened as soon as I reached the walkway. She dropped a box she was holding, storming toward me with Dad right behind her. "How could you do this to your sister?" she demanded, voice high and shaking. Monica jabbed a finger at me. "You were always jealous, always different. You never belonged here." The words landed heavy, familiar. I'd been hearing versions of them my whole life, though never spoken so plainly. "So that's it?" I asked quietly. "All these years I didn't belong?" Mom's eyes flashed. No more honey, no more coaxing, just truth, bitter and raw. "You were never like us. You never fit in. And yes, maybe you did try to buy your way into this family, but that was your choice." The world went still. It was what I had suspected all along but never wanted to believe. Now it was carved into the cold morning air, undeniable. I straightened, spine steel. "No. That was me trying to believe I mattered to you. And now I know the truth. You never wanted me, and I'm finally done wanting you." Behind them, the moving truck roared to life. Monica's husband shouted for her to hurry. Madison stood by the steps, clutching a shoebox, her eyes darting between us. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't mocking. She just looked scared. For a heartbeat, guilt flickered. She was only a child caught in the wreckage of her parents' choices. My hand brushed against the small gift card in my coat pocket, the one I'd thought about giving her, then reconsidered. I kept it there, fingers curling around the edge. Not yet. Monica's voice cracked the moment. "Don't think this makes you better than us," she spat. "You'll die bitter and alone, Michaela." I met her eyes, calm as stone. "No, I'll die knowing my daughter grew up believing she's enough. That's the difference." Her mouth snapped shut. Greg stepped forward, clearing his throat. "Everything signed?" he asked Monica's husband. "Yeah," he muttered, barely looking at me. "Doesn't mean we forgive you." I didn't answer. Forgiveness wasn't mine to chase anymore. Process servers had already done their job. Every paper was in order. This wasn't about forgiveness. This was about closure. Mom tried one last time, her voice sharp, almost desperate. "Michaela, think of Madison. Think of family." I shook my head. Family isn't supposed to make you feel small. Family isn't supposed to break you just to laugh. If that's what this is, then I don't need it. Silence spread like frost over the yard. Even the truck idled quieter. Then I turned, walked past them to the porch, and laid my hand flat against the doorframe. "Goodbye," I said, and I closed the door. Inside, the house smelled stale, faintly of dust and something sour. The hallway clock ticked, that same rhythm from my childhood dinners, the soundtrack to every humiliation, but now it was ticking on my side of the threshold. Adam came in behind me, his hand brushing mine. He didn't speak, just stood with me in that silence. Outside, I could hear Monica shouting orders again, boxes scraping, truck doors slamming, every sound a retreat. I leaned my forehead against the wall, let out a long breath, then pulled back. No tears, no collapse, just stillness, solid and certain. Hours later, the last box was loaded. The truck rumbled off down the street, leaving the driveway empty, echoing with ghosts. Mom and Dad didn't look back at me when they followed. I watched from the window, the house around me quiet as a church. Greg cleared his throat softly. We'll have offers fast. Market's good right now. Almost as if on cue, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A new email. Offer received, above asking. I stared at the screen, then looked out at the bare driveway. For years, I had been paying to belong. Now the world was paying me to let go. That night, when Olivia came home from a friend's house, she found me at the kitchen table, papers spread out, the glow of the laptop casting shadows. Are they gone? She asked carefully. I nodded. Yes, they're gone. Her shoulders eased, the tiniest sigh escaping her lips. Then she sat beside me, opening her math workbook like it was just another night. But I could see it. Something had shifted. The weight that had hung over her since Christmas was gone. And for the first time in decades, maybe in my whole life, the house felt like it truly belonged to me. Still, as I closed my laptop, one thought lingered. They weren't finished with me, not yet. The moving truck might be gone, but the storm wasn't over. A year can change everything. 1 year after that cold, gray morning, the house feels different. The walls no longer echo with borrowed voices. The air doesn't carry the tension of being watched, weighed, judged. For the first time, peace feels permanent. Olivia came home from school last week, her backpack bouncing against her shoulder. She dropped it by the door, her cheeks flushed with winter air. Remember that friend who always made little jokes about me? She asked casually, pouring herself a glass of milk. I braced myself. Yes. I don't sit with her anymore. She said it simply, as though it were obvious. Then she grinned. I hang out with someone new now. She likes the same books I do. She doesn't laugh at me. She laughs with me. Her smile was pure, unguarded. I almost cried right there. It took me decades to learn that lesson. She learned it at 11. Meanwhile, Monica's life unraveled in the way slow leaks eventually collapse a roof. After the eviction, she and her family moved back in with Mom and Dad. That lasted 2 months before the walls cracked. Too many people under one roof. Too many resentments simmering. Arguments boiled over, dishes slammed, doors banged, words so sharp they cut deeper than knives. Eventually, they left for a cramped rental in a rough part of town. Gone were the Etsy shops and side hustles. Monica clocked into a full-time job she hated, dragging herself home each night with eyes dull, spirit frayed. Her husband traded his creative path for manual labor, his body wearing down fast. They were tired, they were broke, and they were still arguing. And Mom and Dad? They became Monica's lifeline, bailing her out with money, covering her bills. The same parents who once told me I was too sensitive now found themselves sinking under the weight of the child they favored. The irony didn't escape me. I never gloated, not out loud, but some nights when the house was quiet, I thought about how different it could have been. If Monica had simply treated Olivia with kindness, if my parents had once, just once, stood up for me instead of brushing it off, none of this might have happened. But cruelty has a way of writing its own ending. The house sold within weeks. The offer was higher than I'd dreamed. Adam and I closed the deal quickly. For the first time, my bank account didn't feel like a rope binding me to obligation. It felt like freedom. I took a small portion of the proceeds and set it aside quietly. Not for me, not for Monica, for something else. At Olivia's school, I established a scholarship fund in anonymity for girls in the district who experienced bullying, who needed opportunities to chase something brighter. The paperwork didn't bear my name. It didn't need to. One day, maybe Madison herself might qualify, if life steered her there. That thought didn't sting. It almost felt right. Weeks turned into months. My phone stayed mostly silent. No apologies, no olive branches. Occasionally, gossip trickled through distant relatives. Monica complaining about her commute, Dad grumbling about bills, Mom sighing that I'd broken the family. I stopped listening. Their words no longer carved into me. They floated past, powerless. Olivia and I found new rituals. Sunday mornings at the park, long evenings building Lego cities across the living room rug. She grew louder, steadier, her voice no longer shrinking under the weight of comparison. Adam noticed it too. She's lighter, he said once, watching her laugh across the table. Like she finally believes she belongs. I smiled. Because she does. One night I came home to find a voicemail blinking on the machine. Mom's voice. Soft, uncertain. Michaela, I just wanted to... A pause, a sigh, then the click of her hanging up. I stood there for a long time, listening to the silence that followed. Maybe she wanted to apologize. Maybe she didn't know how. Either way, I didn't replay it. I didn't need to. Peace doesn't always arrive with trumpets. Sometimes it comes quietly, like a blanket pulled over tired shoulders. Olivia curled on the couch one afternoon with her new friend, giggling over a book. Their laughter filled the house. Not jagged, not cruel, just warm, alive. I leaned against the doorway, listening, and felt something I hadn't in years. Home. Then, a week later, a new envelope arrived in the mail. Certified. Thick. The return address read, Summit Title and Escrow. Adam raised an eyebrow when I held it up. More paperwork? Maybe, I said, though my stomach tightened. Inside, I could almost hear the hallway clock ticking again, echoing from the past. I slid the envelope onto the table, unopened. For now. Because some battles can wait until you've caught your breath. And for the first time in my life, I had the strength to choose when. They thought mocking me was harmless. They thought mocking Olivia was funny. But in the end, it cost them everything. And it taught me something I should have known all along. I never needed their acceptance to begin with. So tell me, did I go too far or not far enough?